Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm Dorothy. I'm a professional astrologer and you can find me on the web at nhastrologer.com. And thanks for joining me today. I want to talk to, who am I talking to? I got the wrong notes in front of me. I'm talking to Sagittarius now. Sag, or those with Sag rising. I want to talk to you about, let's start with April, May, and June. I'm going to start with April 4th. Full moon lunar eclipse is in your 11th house. It's at 14 degrees Libra. I want you to remember back to October 8th. We had another eclipse at that same place, which was 13 degrees of Libra, so they're right next to each other. This is really close. 6 months apart. We don't typically have them at the same degree or near the same degree, but this time it happened that way, just the way it goes sometimes. So that means 6 months ago and coming up to April 4th. There is something that we're working on. Eclipses are always 6 months apart like this. You know, they're 2 weeks apart and then they're 6 months apart. Typically, there's always the exception. So this eclipse is in your 11th house, and that is the area of your chart, which is all about my friends, my social status, you know, actually how I am out in society, what causes interest me, being a revolutionary, being evolutionary. What am I doing with all of these things? How am I changing the world? Do I have a piece of the world? Do I have a part of the world? So now when we have a full moon eclipse there, typically it would be all about letting go of a friendship. If you hadn't done that back in October, you might do it now, or starting a new friendship. It's going to be, it can be one or the other, or a new relationship, or a new association with the group, or a new acquaintance. All of this energy of a full moon in Libra. Libra is about relationships. Full moon eclipse is powerful emotion about releasing and letting things go in that 11th house that is in charge of our groups, our friends, and our social interests. This is the highlight of this eclipse on April 4th, and similar situation would most likely have been going on as well in October. So you got a clue as to what's going to happen. Next we have on April 8th, Jupiter making, it's moving direct, it's stationary direct, it's at 12 degrees of Leo when it does that. That's going to be in your 9th house, and while it's in your 9th house, basically that 9th house is your sector of the astrology chart in the natural order of things. So it's all about highlighting the things that you're interested in, which is always about higher education, expanding your awareness, especially through travel and through exposure to other cultures and really through experiencing life. Saturn's moved into Sag right now. It will be, I'll be speaking about that shortly, but not till June. And but even with Saturn in your zodiac sign at this point, in the month of April and May, it's actually since December, you know, it is about expanding that energy of yourself and the things that you really find important and things that are very comfortable and very strong and grounded for you. So this stationary direct movement of your ruling planet Jupiter in your ruling house, 9th house, is really going to highlight these things for you, this educational piece for yourself and where you want to learn more. Next, on April 18th, we have a full moon at 28 degrees of Aries. That's going to go on in your 5th house, and that's the creative place in our chart. So Aries is all about, this new moon, about setting new goals in the sign of Aries. That means, what is it that you want? That Aries energy is about I am, what I like to initiate actions, where I like to get myself started in new projects, where I like to be spontaneous in a lot of ways in the things that are that interest me. In that 5th house, it's where you're creative and the things that you're passionate about. Got a fire sign in a fire house, very, very active energy in this new moon. So set new moon goals for yourself on April 18th in some very positive ways for yourself. If you've been stale about being creative, and let that go. We all need to be creative. We tend to let it go when we get too busy, and then it causes us to feel a little stuck. So ignite that fiery area once again, please, and you have help on the new moon. May 3rd, the full moon at 13 degrees of Scorpio is off in that 12th house sector. And in that 12th house sector, when we have a full moon there, it will highlight the things that we tend to keep secret from ourselves and even from others. And when it highlights that, these are things that we're going to be working on in a deep psychological place. Usually it's done in private. Nobody really even needs to know about it or has to know about it. But if you do have or go to see a counselor and have some healing processes done, whether it's metaphysically, spiritually, or through the mundane levels of, a psychiatrist or therapist, this is a really good way to use this full moon in Scorpio in your 12th house. That's early May. May 7th, Venus enters the sign of Cancer in your 8th house. Now, when it goes Venus in the 8th house, it's all about who we love, and especially the things that we value, the things that we think are beautiful. That 8th house is also sex. And so on the physical level, like there's more, but this piece is interesting. What we think is beautiful can be quite a turn on for some of us, especially for Sagittarius when Venus moves into this sector. It's in this sector for everybody some point throughout the year. In the sign of Cancer, though, you're going to have emotional attachment to somebody and an emotional attachment to what you value before you can have a physical connection with somebody. Now, Venus in Cancer in the 8th house. The 8th house also represents outside resources, financial resources. Venus is finances as well. So there is some sort of shift going on there. And you may be able to buy that one thing that you've always wanted to buy that makes you feel like you're very much at home and comforted and family. Or you may need to shift that value just a little bit. What is it that you value? What are these outside? How well are you using your outside resources? Outside resources. Resources you don't earn is what it means. It could be spousal resources. It could be resources from a bank, from credit cards, things like that. So inheritances, that type of stuff, all comes up when Venus moves through that sector. It's only a 3 or 4 week transit. It's pretty quick, but it will be focused. May 11th, Mars moves into the sign of Gemini. That's in your career, in your relationship sector. So Mars in the 7th house is all about really activating those partnerships and relationships. In Gemini, that means there's going to be lots of communication. If you're a single person, you might go on lots of dates throughout the 6 weeks, 7 weeks that Mars is in this area. And in this sign, lots of talk, lots of communication, maybe some action, but nothing that's long-term yet. All right? So May through June with Mars in Gemini. It's very fun and very flirtatious, especially in that partnership part of your chart. And if you're using it in a business relationship, then there's lots of little activities that are fun and good for you. Okay? Now, I want to move on to May 17th on the West Coast, May 18th on the East Coast. We do have the new moon at 26 degrees Taurus. Now, if it's at 26 degrees of Taurus, that's in your 6th house of everyday routine, your daily routine, the things that you do on a regular basis. It's also your health. So you're going to focus and pay attention on that. That new moon in Taurus is how I value my health, how I value what my daily routine is like. When our daily routines get kicked off a whack, it really throws the whole day off. So this will help you set some new goals and set some new things in whatever it is that you value as far as your daily routine goes. All right. Now on May 18th, we have a similar situation, but Mercury's retrograde, all right, in the sign of Gemini, in the 7th house, all right? So when we have Mercury retrograde in the 7th house, that is about, again, it kind of goes along with the Mars in Gemini in the 7th house. Partnerships and communications might be a little slowed down. It's okay for our relationships and our communication to slow down a little bit. All of the Mercury retrogrades this year are in air signs, so that means we have to stop thinking so much. All 3 Mercury retrogrades are in all 3 of the air signs. It was Aquarius in the winter, it's Gemini here in the spring, and it'll be Libra in the fall. All right, so all 3 of them. That means we need to slow down our thinking. Same goes for you, especially when it comes to relationships and partnerships. Now, your 7th house is the focus for you in May and June because there's a lot that goes on there. The sun moves into Gemini in the 7th house. Again, that's on May 21st. So the sun, wherever that is, it illuminates that sector. So it illuminates it so we can focus and pay attention on it. Your 7th house of partnerships has a focus from May 21st all the way to June 21st. So that is big news for you. Relationships are going to be a big thing. Now, the full moon that we have on June 2nd is in Sagittarius. That is going to be in your 1st house. Now, when a full moon in Sag is about the truth, freedom, loving, truth, seeking, expand who I am. And it is a full moon, so that means the sun is in the relationship part in the 7th house, and the full moon in Sag is in the 1st house. There's a lot of freedom that is needed when we have a full moon in the 1st house. So find that freedom within the dynamic of the relationships that you're in, okay? Doesn't mean you have to break up a relationship. That's the last thing it means. It just means find that freedom within the dynamic of the relationships and take a little more time and space for yourself so you can feel that independence without throwing throwing everything away. Sag is all about the truth, so be truthful with yourself and your partner as well. On June 5th, Venus in the sign of Leo, it moves into the sign of Leo, into your 9th house. Again, that's your house, Sag. And when it moves there, Venus is coming up to meet with Jupiter in a little while, but not in this report. It'll be in the next one. So when Venus moves into Leo in that 9th house, again, what that Sag area, it's all about expanding, again, the education that we're interested, expanding our truth, expanding what it is that we want to learn, expanding our knowledge and our awareness. It's definitely metaphysical studies if you're interested in that, or taking your studies and whatever it is you're interested in and really engaging the passion that you have in that and really helping that to blossom, because the next area after the 9th house is that career sector. So even though that's not triggered right now in the things I'm talking about, it won't be long before it is. So what we do when the 9th house is activated is educate ourselves. So when those planets, whatever they happen to be, get to the 10th house in that career area, we're able to really engage our career and the things that we've learned up until then. So take that Venus and Jupiter in that 9th house and definitely educate yourself in what you're passionate about, because then you can turn that into career tools. Now on June 11th, that I didn't mention, but that's when Mercury goes direct. So June 11th, it goes direct in your 7th house of partnerships and relationships. So for 3 weeks, from May 18th to June 11th, Mercury is retrograde in that relationship part of your chart. Let's just slow down in there, all right? I'm a Gemini. It's going over all my Gemini stuff. I even get a solar return with Gemini retrograde for the year, Mercury retrograde for the year. That means I'll be slowing down my talking. That might help you guys out. Or not, I don't know. Anyways, I want to move on to Saturn now on June 14th. Saturn's been retrograde this whole time since excuse me, since it started. I don't know when it started. I don't have the date in my head. I apologize. Saturn is retrograde, and it will return to the sign of Scorpio. That was a little blunder, huh? I'm leaving it in. And that is on June 14th. It will be in the sign of Scorpio, retrograde half of the time, direct the other half of the time, till September 18th. Now that is in your 12th house, so Saturn moved back into your 12th house for a little while. So if you have any psychological things that you're working on, I already mentioned this, but it's good. I'm going to repeat myself because it's the same area. If you have any psychological issues that you're working on, if you have any secrets that you've been working through, if you've been working through some things that caused a little bit of depression, then you're going to be able to see what it is on the most clearest level, because it will be pretty much finishing up. So it's just 3 months, the final 3 months of Saturn in that sign for 2.5 years. So from the middle of 2012 all the way through 2014, Saturn in Scorpio was very intense, very deep, all of that energy, your 12th house. which can make us pretty depressed sometimes if things just don't seem to be moving, because we're always wanting to expand, expand, expand. Well, not everything is about expanding. We can't expand infinitely. Well, we can't, you know. We have to come in once in a while. And when Saturn moves through the 12th house, especially in the sign of Scorpio, it is about clearing the deck and clearing that muck and all those things that we've been hanging on to for too long. Helps us clear it out. And that's what's happened for you who have Sag rising and are Sagittarius. So move through that stuff. So even though for 3 months, June to July to August to September, Saturn is back in that sign of Scorpio, it is just the final touches on a lot of healing that you've done from those dates, 2012 to 2014. And so use it. It would be perfectly fine. And you'll really be able to stand in your own strength and power once September comes and Saturn gets back out of that sign and moves back into Sagittarius, your sign, where you can expand. It's going to be good for you. So I want to finish this up with the summer solstice on June 21st, and on June 24th, Mars moves into the sign of Cancer with the Sun, and so that is all in your 8th house. So that will again focus in on what it is, those outside resources that you can use and hold and obtain and really help to move your life forward. Those outside resources of that 8th house. It's also where we do a lot of transitional work, and that sign of Cancer is very emotional work. So you have a lot of emotion that you're going through for the month of June, or for the zodiac sign of Cancer, while the Sun is moving through Cancer and starting on the 21st of June. So wherever you're emotional, whatever that emotion is about, or whatever you're focusing on in regards to your emotions, caring and nurturing of your family and your home, that's going through some sort of transition through the summer, which is fine. Maybe you're getting ready to send a kid off to college and you're going to have an empty house once they leave. Who knows? But there are, you know what it is for you. It's a little bit different for everybody. So there is something going through a major transition in regards to your emotions and how you care and nurture for you and your family and your home. And we all go through this. This is your path this time every year. The Sun moves through this sector every year at this time, so this is nothing new. It's just your time to work on that stuff. So I'm going to leave you with that. That's 3 months worth of information. Whew, exhale. And please find me on the web, nhastrologer.com, and I can do private sessions. That's what I do. This is my living. I do private sessions by phone or Skype if you're outside of the country. And to find me on Facebook, Dorothy Morgan Astrologer. Please share these videos on your YouTube pages or on your Facebook pages and whatever else you like to use for social media. I would appreciate it. It keeps me here and it keeps me doing my passion, which I couldn't do without you. Thank you very much. With much gratitude and love, I want to say thank you very much. Blessed be, and namaste.